Good evening and welcome to another edition of One Sports. We have some fantastic guests in the studio and we are talking football and we're talking diversity and inclusion. It's a big subject, it's a big topic, it's a hot topic. Lots happening in the football world with the new season kicking off now as well. And that's what we're discussing today. So please do join in, and you can join in on 0203 515 1764 is the studio hotline, and we're live on Facebook. If you want to go online, it's TV1 One Sports TV1 on Facebook if you want to join us live. Abu?
Yeah, great to be on the show again. It's a big one today, isn't it?
It's a big topic. I don't know if we're going to get it all in an hour.
Not in an hour, but we'll try our best. But do phone in, tweet, watch us on Facebook. But we've got some distinguished guests tonight in the studio. So on my right, most people probably know him, Raj Athwal. Raj, football commercial consultant. You've done a lot of work. We'll go into that later on, but you've been on the show before. Thanks for coming again.
No, well, thank you for inviting me, and it's been a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming, Raj. And on my left, we got Yasmin Haroon, chair of the Muslima Sports Association. Yasmin, thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so, had a short journey or?
Yeah, I've just come from a football match, so not too far away.
I've watched you just guys play football, didn't you? So that's fine. But listen, we'll kickstart the show since we only got an hour. But Raj, let's start off with you. Give us a quick background about yourself and all the work you've done. We know, but let the viewers know.
Yeah, I've worked in football now for over 25 years, full time. Started at Coventry City Football Club in the mid-90s. I was there for 14 seasons, and then moved to Watford Football Club as head of commercial, and then their commercial director and the then chairman, who was God bless him, was Graham Taylor. And then from there I moved on to Glasgow Rangers for several seasons, and then I decided to go into commercial consultancy in football, and I worked with Port Vale, Burton Albion, and also worked a little bit with some European clubs. So yeah, it's been a great journey.
And you got a book as well, Raj, The British Raj.
Yeah, the book obviously it just made sense with the name, and the reason I wrote the book was simply to give kids, certainly the Asian generation of kids, a younger generation, an insight to what it was like for my generation growing up during the late 70s, 80s, when there was a lot of racism, the National Front, skinheads, and also the challenges we faced, our parents faced, also trying to make a life for ourselves as well. It was difficult, and those challenges were something else, and so that's what it's about. And then my experiences behind the scenes of football. So it's a holistic of ideology of what I've done.
Brilliant. Look, I've read it, guys. If you haven't read it, go to Amazon, buy the book, or talk to us.
Yasmin, again, someone who's very popular in the community, doing some fantastic work with Muslima Sports Association. Just tell us what else you do apart from the football coaching and everything that the organisation does. I know you're involved with the FA, London FA.
Yeah, so MSA was established in 2014 and we got the charity status in 2019. And I've been a London FA director for the last year and a bit, and also British fencing director as well for 2 years. So I'm involved with the FA in inclusion, the Asian inclusion strategy, so as part of that, and also the working party for Asian females in football. So I contribute to that and give my insight into terms of how we can get more Asians into football, Asian women playing football especially. More recently, I've become chair of Friendford and MSA Women FC. So we've merged partnerships with Friendford. Before it was MSA and Friendford FC, but we've become a partnership and more established within the community now, offering more opportunities for females to come into football.
And of course, recently you played at Stamford Bridge in the competition, which you won.
Yeah, we did. We were the underdogs. So it was a great set-in, and the women just thoroughly enjoyed themselves. It was during Ramadan last year, and so some of the girls were fasting. But we triumphed, and it was a really, really memorable evening for us. So yeah, it was really good.
Cool. Don't forget, guys, today's topic is football and diversity and inclusion. It's all about how can we promote the BAME community in football. Has things changed? Myself, Abu and Raj, as they said, last 25 years have been in the football industry. Has things really changed for the community? And what are people been doing now? Because we 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we had lots of reports and lots of reviews. what action points have really been taken is what we want to know today.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before I go into the next topic, Yashmin, I recently seen an advert last week, London FA, recruiting for a new board.
New council members.
Okay,
So that's your foot in the door.
right.
And then there's the head of football development,
I've
which
seen
they're
that one, yeah.
advertising. So that's a good salary, good senior management team leader.
Yep.
So that's another good opportunity to get your foot in the door. And obviously you don't have to come from a footballing background.
Yeah.
Commercial or corporate backgrounds is more than welcome to apply. And once you get your foot in the door, I mean, that can take you to obviously lots of different positions within football,
Sure.
if that's your passion.
But one thing good about that is the advert that I've seen was they were looking for independent members to come in on the panel to actually recruit board and council members,
That's right.
which was really, really good, I thought. Because I think one of the problems, Raj, what happens in football, and we've been through that, it's who you know, isn't it? So, look, I've just worked recently, well, we work with various different clubs and organisations. It's always been bring the friends in. If you look at some of the governing bodies, the FA, the Premier League, I'm not going to mention it, the EFL, for example, when I went into these offices, everybody knew each other from school days. Yeah, so everybody brought their friends in, people they know, people they're comfortable with, which actually didn't help because anybody outside of that circle could not get into the game. So that's a positive move by the London FA, isn't it? Should others take a similar stance?
Absolutely, and I've said this for several years, that football is based on nepotism, is based on who you know. Now, several industries also practice this, but what you've got to understand is football is such a small the number of positions. There's not that many available. Is it the best person for the job? Is it on merit? And I do feel that this is where perhaps certainly the BAME community are then suffering, and that's the challenge we have. So I do believe, again, Yashmin will be able to confirm this, that I believe the FA have since introduced a protocol where all football clubs, professional football clubs, have to advertise any particular position, or certainly from senior from middle management to senior positions. And so, however, saying that, I am aware of a couple of chief executives in football, one in the Premiership, one in the Championship, that's been offered an opportunity, a position, and they haven't gone through the system, through the advertising. It's just who they knew. So they've got to weigh this up, but for me it's still based on nepotism, which then means that communities such as the BAME community, certainly the Asian community and other communities, are then suffering as a result.
Having said that, we've obviously got people on the London FA board. Emdad Rahman is someone who's on the London FA Council now, I think. He's one of the first Asians to be on there as well. So Emdad, well done on doing that. I know it's been a struggle for you to get on that board, but hopefully you can make a positive impact on that board.
Ours as well.
Arutmia, yes,
Yeah,
from
so
the Bangladesh Football
he's
Association.
recently been introduced to the council. And I think from the London FA point of view, you have a team of directors, a board of directors, you have the CEO, you have a brilliant chair who are really committed to diversity and inclusion. And we're one of the most diverse boards, I think, within the FA, within the county FAs. And we have a really good IAG as well, which is the Inclusion Advisory Group. So we're quite representative of the people that we serve.
Yeah.
And the council is now becoming representative of that as well.
So
So I'm
is the
encouraging.
London FA, Yasmin, is that a good example for the national FA? So I'll give you the example. So I was on the Task and Finish group, I think it was 12 years ago even, which is the anti-discrimination plan the FA implemented, which covered all the key issues around, diversity. And one of my critical, moments was around where's the evaluation? What's changed since the last 12 years? And just to mention as well, obviously we invited the FA to the show today, but they couldn't make it, obviously not quite ready for it yet. They were completely honest with us. They're launching their diversity and inclusion plan in October and have agreed to come on in October. So it would be a bit more fair once we get them on the show as well. But my point was, compared to, Raj will remember this, Yasmin, you're probably a lot younger, Jazz Baines, Asians can't play football, and we worked with Jazz for a long time. And has anything changed since Jazz's report? And the question is, Abdul, I'm going to ask you that actually.
Personally, I don't think, because I remember that's where we first met, if you remember, at Wembley Stadium, the old Wembley Stadium, Faith in Football Forums, they had the Asian Football Forums, those of you a bit older will remember that. But has really, we're what 3-4 decades on from that now, if not more, and I really can't see any change apart from some tokenistic events that happen at clubs and so on and so forth. I don't really see anything really positively
It's too many
change.
ticking boxes, isn't it?
It is. It's just it's on the window. It's on the shelf, but it's not selling at the moment, and that's the way I see it.
Yasmin, I mean, what's your honest opinion? We'll keep it balanced.
Yeah, from a London FA point of view, they're doing all the right things.
Yeah.
They take my comments and all the other board members' comments. It's, as I said, it's pretty diverse anyway. So they take all of our comments on board.
What about in general, in terms of football
But in
itself?
general, in terms of football, I don't see there's been a huge change. I've been to the first Asian Inclusion Forum 10 years ago. 10 years on, they still haven't got a strategy together. So that's taken a long time, whereas you compare it to cricket, they had a consultation, I think, in October, and they had a strategy within 6 months. So it's taken them a long time to create that strategy. And what's really changed, they can't affect the Premier League, they can't affect the EFL. That's what the barrier is, because they can say, yes, let's have an Asian inclusion strategy and this is how we'll bring more Asians into football. But if the Premier League and the EFL are not buying into that strategy, what's going to change? Nothing.
Raj, obviously a lot of work's been done recently by Sporting Equals in terms of research, providing the findings and working with Sport England, governing bodies and others in terms of implementing things such as the Rooney Rule and other things. Is that going to make an impact? Because what you're doing is fair enough. If it's being funded by the government or public bodies, you can have a bit of a influence. But when you've got majority of football clubs owned by private owners, they don't have to follow that, do they?
Absolutely. I can't say too much about the governing bodies because they can try and implement what they wish, but the football clubs are separate entities. As you said, they're owned by individuals who really are law to themselves. Now, for me, the biggest issue is that football clubs, look, 25 years, there was 3-4 Asians when I started, and there's probably 4 or 5 Asians now. Nothing's changed. That's the fact. So let's be upfront and honest about this. And that's at middle to senior management. Nothing's changed. Now some of the chief execs, some of the owners may be foreign owners, but for me, they're still employing certain people that perhaps, and it could be unconscious bias, because the football clubs I've been at, they go to recruitment firms if they do employ. So if they don't know the people, they'll go to recruitment firms. Recruitment firms, to this day, I've only had one recruitment firm approach me for a position. And again, they are putting through people they know. For whatever reason, I can't answer the reasons, but I can only give you the facts, and I've been on the inside, so I know what's going on. So there's a whole number of, it's not complex, there's a whole number of variables that need to be changed. And it's got to change from the top, because we keep talking about footballers, but no one's talking about the inside of football. And until you get people on the board that are representative of the communities these football clubs serve, we're not going to see any change at the clubs, or certainly on the pitch as well, for me anyway.
Right, as a sorry to come in there, as an Asian person who's actually worked at the very top, you've broken the glass ceiling, let's be honest, for a long time. Do you feel, you working with Rangers, as a commercial director and others, has that had a positive impact globally? So in terms of getting more commercial deals, has that made a positive impact by having you as an Asian person there?
Absolutely, and I'll give you several examples. When I was at Coventry City, we wanted to, first of all, we saw a number of Asian kids coming through the doors, parents coming through, and at first we just thought because it was the inception of the Premiership. And then when we were looking at businesses, a lot of them were coming to me. And at the time, admittedly, I never thought of it, that perhaps as a result that I'm Asian and they connect with me. The same happened at Watford. And now Glasgow Rangers have just signed up a deal with India, a football club in India. Again, that is a proposal I put forward in 2013, which they've just done recently. I'm not saying as a result of that, but it was on the cards that they need to do this.
They finally woke up.
Yeah, but what I did find was box holders, corporates, a huge significant spend as a result of Asian communities who could connect with me, and also saw that there was perhaps an Asian person at a football club. So, because look, those, this, Abu, that the connotations, those social connotations from the 80s and 90s of racism, of nationalism existed. If you went along, you were lucky not to come out to be called names, etc. And that still permeates through to a lot of Asians who go to the games. So for a lot of these businesses, seeing an Asian face on the inside of football, representing that football club in a senior level, is massive. It makes a huge, huge difference. And the challenge is for the football clubs now to recognise this and to change their protocols and change their processes. And until that changes, I don't believe we'll see change.
Before we come to how and why and how the organisations and clubs can do that, don't forget, guys, 0203 515 1764 is the studio hotline. Please do give us a call. Answer your questions to Raj, ask your questions to Yasmin. These are guys who are on the scene, working at clubs, or worked at clubs. They can give you the real life answer on how to get involved into clubs. Not just in the commercial industry. Abu works in the coaching industry, Yasmin's works in the coaching industry as well. So any question you have around football, please call in the studio, 0203 515 1764 is the studio hotline. Now, coming back to Yasmin, Raj was quite eloquently talking about the change in the boardrooms and hierarchy. I'm going to come down to the grassroots because that's what I've been personally doing for a number of years and working in that route. We've got a lot of organisations set up at grassroots. Muslim Sports Association, yours, we've got the Bangladesh Football Association, we've got the Khalsa Football League, we've got the separate leagues. They all set up the individual leagues. Is that a positive or negative into getting some of our communities into the hierarchy, what Raj was just mentioning? Are they segregating themselves? Are they splitting away?
I think you have to ask the question why they're segregating, because obviously positive experiences hasn't been there for them. So Sporting Bengal, for example, they've joined the Essex Senior League. They've had really bad experiences, and if they were to walk away, then we wouldn't have another representation in those types of leagues. So they've been quite strong and they've stood their ground and they've stayed in that league. But a lot of other clubs would just say, forget this, I'm going to set up my own league. So we have to ask the question why they're setting up their own leagues. Is it because they don't feel welcomed? Is it because they don't feel that they're able to compete? Or is it because there's racism within those leagues that they want to join? And quite often, those communities that they want to join, it's full of just white old people, and it's not diverse enough to be able to welcome different teams into those leagues. And I know Sporting Bengal have had difficulties joining club.
Well, I can tell you personally, having played for Sporting Bengal for the last 15 years, some of the eventful incidents that we've been through in the Essex League and the Kent League.
I'm going to give you an example, Yasmin, and answer this honestly because it's the mindset. This is the question about. It's about mindset, right? So we started the football season, Luton Sporting Club. We got loads of teams playing in Bedfordshire leagues from the age of 5 onwards. Now we started the season last week. We had a couple of friendlies before that. So we got a new under-8s and under-9s team recently, and first match we played were against an established team, and I went there, supporting my son who was coaching one of the teams. He's 17, got his coaching badges. Decided, so we said, right, coach the under-8s team, and the referee and the other opposition coach, I'm not going to mention the team's name, talked to us like we never ever played football in our life, knew anything about football. Yeah, and I had it through my 16 years, because I've been a coach at Luton Sporting Club for about 16 years as well, won everything. And the mindset of people is that you know nothing about football. And I'll give you another example today, and this is around COVID as well. So what we had was a team is supposed to let us know by Monday evening in grassroots, the home team, where their matches, all that kind of stuff. We had to chase this person. We only found out this evening where the match is after chasing their club secretary eventually. Now he's come back and said, look, we want to see your COVID policies. Have you got the trace system in place? Are you going to do COVID searches on all your parents at the game? Start blah blah blah. Yeah, and we've had that, and our teams are diverse. So we've got a lot of teams with mainly English players, white players. These particular teams that we've had with Asian players and black players, we've had a bit of discrimination. I'm going to say it's discrimination because they think we all got COVID. Yeah, and that's the mindset, and the media plays a big part in that one, because media is telling us BAME people are more likely to get COVID than anybody else. So suddenly in the mindset is, wow, these guys got COVID. Yeah,
so how do you feel like a Muslim lady turning up to football matches to support my son, and parents around thinking, oh, this lady doesn't know anything about football? So it is that mindset. It's like they just automatically make that assumption that we know nothing about football, we know nothing about sports. Cricket is our sport. And you know, it's wrong. And how do you change those mindsets? It's only when you start seeing representation within the whole football, from grassroots up to the top level, that's when you'll start seeing those mindsets
And we've got to change the mindset.
We've got to change the narrative. We have to change the stereotypes. And we can only do that from the inside. And I go on about this in every interview that I have, every podcast that I do. It's about changing the narrative. And if we can only do that from the inside, we can't do that sitting on the sidelines moaning about it. We have to get the skills. We have to equip ourselves with the knowledge to be able to get around that table. Whoever makes the decisions, whether it's at board level, whether it's at CEO level, whether it's even at middle management level, as long as we're there to influence the changes and make those decisions, then we will only see change, because that affects
I'm
not
going to
only...
hold you down. I'm going to disagree with you slightly then, because myself and Abu have been on the FA board, we've been on the FA, and we've been on the boards for a number of years. Raj's have been on, but for me, I stepped away from it about 5-6 years ago because I didn't see anything happening, and it was just going in and talking, and nothing was actually happening. So for me, I had the same motivation to go in and say, okay, I've got the skills, I know I have the skills. There's loads of people out there now who are educated, who've got masters, who've got degrees, who've got level 1s, level 2s, even A licenses, but they're not still at clubs and they're not in the FA system yet. And there are loads of people in our community. Yourself, you're a UEFA B coach.
No.
Coach, you've got qualification.
I managed a team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got loads of people who are on A license in UEFA Bs, but they're not in actual clubs to actually go higher than that. They can coach at Sunday League, they can coach at Saturday League, they can coach at semi-professional level, but ambition should be going up and going into the football leagues and clubs, but they're not getting that access at the moment.
Raj, on that question, obviously, what can be done to tackle these issues? Obviously you've been at the top level.
For
How do you
me,
change the mindset?
look, I don't think it's more complex than that. I don't think there's one answer to this. But as Yasmin said, that you've got to change the narrative. You've got to change the perception of the Asian stereotypes. How do we do that? We have to be honest with ourselves, and I fully agree with Yasmin that get round the table and let's have honest conversations. They may be uncomfortable, but let's have those uncomfortable conversations. Do they think, if I'm talking behind the scenes in football, do they think Asians, they don't want them representing them when they are doing commercial deals or global deals, or do they see them as perhaps not as business wise or have the business acumen to do the job? I don't know.
Asians are
Yeah,
probably
we
the
lead
most
in the
successful
way.
business people there are.
Correct. But when we're looking at positions, when we're looking at development positions, why are we not getting through? And that's what I'm trying to say. Do they want us representing them as a football club because their fan base is majority white? So there's a number of things we have to tackle, but I do think that the first start is clubs have to come out and be honest and say, how's your recruitment? How are you doing your recruitment? Because as I said, we had this conversation before. Asians came to this country, revolutionised retail. We've got our own businesses, very successful businesses. We have a lot of wealthy Asians here, so of course they know how to run businesses. If they can run businesses, they can definitely run football clubs and make it a profitable business, which it's not at the moment. Most football clubs run insolvent. Yeah. So how do we change it? I don't know, other than having uncomfortable conversations and CEOs coming out and saying, okay, we need to change the process how we do this. We need to hold account and have transparency, accountable. The recruitments, make it more accessible for Asians. Maybe have a separate recruitment, a Bain recruitment agency where you don't have to put your name on what faith you are, what religion you are, and just let's attract those people with a skill set and put them through. And then we've got facts and figures and not working on just perhaps a myth of what it could be. Who knows, maybe we need that.
You have clubs that have used the same recruitment process for years.
Yeah.
Unless someone tells them goes in and says to them, look, you need to start casting your net a little bit wider, it's not going to change. They're just going to use the same process again and again.
Hold on to that thought, Yasmin, because we're going to go for a break, but hold on to that thought and we'll give you some examples when we come back. So please join us in a couple of minutes.
Hello and welcome back to One Sports. We've had a very interesting conversation and very frank conversation about football and diversity and inclusion in football. It's a game that we all love. It's a game that we all want to see do well. But we want to be part of that. We want our communities and our youngsters to be part of that. And what we're discussing today is about getting that diversity and inclusion really out to the forefront, and really having an active role in it, not just sitting there just by name, but actually doing some actions. So the studio hotline 0203 515 1764 is the studio hotline. Please give us a call. We have Raj and Yashmin here who are fantastic, got great knowledge, who work in the football industry. So if you want to ask them any questions, 0203 515 1764 is the studio hotline, and we were live on Facebook. So if you want to go online, you can message us on there as well.
Yeah, Yasmin, just before the break, we were talking about obviously getting into football. Now, you've been in the London FA and others. Now, what changes do you want to see?
I think more diversity at board level, but also at CEO level, the executive level, the senior management level, because ultimately it's them that makes those decisions that will bring more diversity within football. So they're doing the recruitment process. Their employees should be diverse. It should be reflective of the communities that they're serving. And then you bring in that train of thought of diverse thoughts and insight, because who else are you going to why are people making decisions for Asian people with not asking them? And that's where they're missing that. They're making these assumptions, they're making these decisions without asking Asian people. Whereas you have the FA who have done this Asian Insight forums and things, but what's really changed? What have they drawn out of it? I'm not really too sure yet. We're still waiting for that strategy.
Though? You're looking at the different characteristics, for example. So, authorities have done a good job in terms of getting more women involved. Brilliant. LGBT, for example. Now, have other characteristics, other people suffered because they've been focused on specifics. For example, we've got the BLM movement at the moment.
Yeah.
Now, is that going to have a negative impact on others?
But I think at this very point we've been the loudest as a community we've ever been within sports, and that's brought the whole community together, whether you're black, you're Asian, minority, ethnic. That's brought it to the forefront for companies, for organizations, especially within sports, to see what are their inclusion and policies like, inclusion diversity policies like. So that's brought that to the forefront. So that's really good. That's been a positive effect. What we don't want to happen is one community being focused on with the others left behind. And that's where the danger lies, because if they are just focused on Black Lives Matters and then black communities only, then you would have that disparity between black communities and Asian communities, and then other minority.
We've seen some changes recently, only in the last week. For example, Sky Sports, TalkSport, completely changed, their presenters and their pundits,
but to the effect of what?
Yeah.
They've got rid of presenters that have been there for years, that have done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
They weren't bad at their job, just to bring in diversity.
And that should be wrong. That's wrong.
I think that's wrong, because what did they do wrong? They were the wrong colour, they were the wrong age.
Yeah, and to be also mentioned as well,
against them in effect.
With that discrimination, so I was listening to obviously TalkSport, some of the commentary on Sky Sports yesterday in the EFL Cup, and I thought some of it was poor, so it doesn't really help. You've got to get somebody on merit, ain't you? Not because of the colour of their skin or anything else. Surely, Raj, you've got to get someone on merit.
And just before you answer that, Raj, by all means, we're not asking for football clubs to say, here, there's a free ticket for you to go to the board member. No, we have people in our community, and I'll say it again, who are fully qualified to do jobs at clubs, to be first team coaches, to be management, to be in the commercial industry at club, because they've had qualifications. They're doing it in other industry that, why can't I do it at a football
We've
club?
got one of the most qualified people within the Asian community sitting here.
We're not asking for a freebie. That's the last thing
Why
we're
are
asking
you
for.
not in the boardroom of the FA, Raj, for example?
Yeah, there has to be a pathway. There are challenges. Why am I not at that level? Threat, perhaps because I am open and transparent. Maybe I'll have those conversations. Perhaps those that are in those positions perhaps see my skill set, and there are people, and I'll say this today, certainly in the Premier League, there are certain one or two commercial directors that have not got my skill set, and what I bring to the table, and I'm sure other Asians do as well. And they're uncomfortable conversations to have, but we have to have them now, and there has to be a pathway for the Asian community to come through. But going back to your question, it's a difficult one. Why am I not at the FA board? I have tried, by the way, several times, and there's been one excuse after the other. I've given up. I don't, even if it does come to me now, I just don't. But again, I've been in this industry 25 years, and I genuinely can't give you an answer other than the fact that it could be unconscious bias, it's down to nepotism, and there is not a will to have a change. You have to have a will as well to say, okay, do we really want change, or are we just going to just tick boxes? And until we have that will, I don't think we will have major change.
Right, one thing to mention, and I mean, and I'll come to you, Abdel, as well, with another question. So obviously I worked in grassroots right to the Premier League, and one of the key things I found was very uncomfortable. When I first, 2 years ago I think it was, Abdel, when I first went into the Premier League,
2 years ago.
I walked into the Premier League offices, and you know, if I'm honest with you, and I'm sorry, apologies to other colleagues, most of them are great, but when I walked in I felt uncomfortable, because people looked at me and thought, where did you come from? Who are you? Should this guy be here? You know? And suddenly I was introduced as someone who's going to be heading up the Elite Player Performance, Academy Managers Program. It was a total shock. So
we have to break barriers before we've even entered the room.
yeah,
Just because our name is Asian.
exactly. Yeah.
So we have to overcome that barrier first, and before we even speak.
And the other thing as well, I even still find it challenging. Just working, I got to do 10 times better. You know, I know the knives are out there. You know, if I get one thing wrong, that's it.
And sometimes people within your own community are against you. And it's quite blunt, I know, I'm sorry.
Brilliant.
But
go for it,
we should be pulling each other up the ladder.
Yeah.
We should be saying, I know a guy that would be perfect for that job. I know a lady that would be perfect for that job. But we're not doing that. We're looking after ourselves. We're looking, I don't want anyone to threaten my position. I'll be kicked out to the curb or something. That's wrong.
That's a great point you make there. Now,
there are lots of people who have been in the industry for a long time, very few, but they've been there a long time, and they have to question, what have they done for the Asian community? What differences have they made? What changes have they made? I haven't been at the London FA for very long, but I've been at there for just over a year. But within the council already, I've brought Arrows, I've brought Imrul will be coming in, I've brought Yasmin, my manager, my coach. So I've already brought 3 players in. But you know, that's just 3 players in one turnaround of council recruitment process. The next recruitment process is coming through. I'll be bringing in a load of other people. So that's what I do. That's what I want to do, is bring in more people from our community so we have that greater voice.
But do you think it's also the other way around, when someone is at the top doing well and we get a lot of critical Asians, not just Asians, anybody, BAME members of our community who are sort of trying to put that person back down again? Do you think that exists as well?
That could exist. It depends on what they're achieving at that top, at that level. Because are they just being are they just a yes person, or are they actually making fundamental changes?
Is it their responsibility? And I'll give you an example. He's probably watching, phone in if you can. Dr. Zaf Iqbal, good friend of mine, was at Liverpool, probably the most senior and most qualified doctor in football.
How far? He's got as far as
but why should Zaf then be responsible for every other person?
But he's opened that door. That's all he had to do, was open that door, be representative, that I've made it into Liverpool. You know, one of the biggest clubs in the world. He's been the backroom staff, medical staff. He's been their doctor. There's no more he needs to do. He's been there. He's visible. He's vocal. He's representative of our community. That is all he needs to do. Right. He doesn't need to be going out there recruiting. He doesn't need to be doing any more than that, I don't think. As long as he's visible and he's vocal about it, that, he's done his job.
Abdul, before I go to Raj now, I'm going to ask
put me on the spot.
You've been with the London FA and you left after a long time. Because I think you were a young 16-year-old when I first started working there.
17 yesterday.
What's the reason?
It comes back to, going to the meetings for a long while. It takes a lot of time. I don't forget, these are voluntary roles, away from, a coaching role or a teaching role that I was doing at the time. So it was a lot of evening. Is it that alone,
or is it more around, what about the changes that you wanted to make? Did you feel that
the changes weren't happening. You're going to the meetings one after the other and you're talking about the same thing. Can this happen? Or can that be put in place? And it's, okay, yes, we're going to have a review, or yes, we're going to do this initiative. And it never actually came to the forefront. And then all of a sudden you had, the IAGs and the REAGs that come up, and they were there to deal with the county FA's issues around discrimination and racism, and how about getting equality into the board. Now, if you looked on the REAG and IAG, and we sat on the same one, if you remember, even there were people beating the door down, absolutely beating the door down with passion to say, we need to do this, we need to have this change. But the door was not falling down, it was still there. And sometimes for me that was the negative of it, that saying after 10 years or 15 years of trying, I as Raj, you quite rightly said, I took my attention to something else, which, funny enough, was the business, and I went into business.
Yeah. And we've been successful. Yeah.
So was that the London FA? Or was that the FA?
Also the National FA.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, going back to that one. So Raj, you know, okay, we just got a call, Raj. I'll come back to you in a bit. We've got a caller on the line. Who's calling? Hi, who's calling?
Hello, this is Bobby.
Hi,
Bobby
can you hear
from
us?
Luton.
You're online.
Yep.
You're live on there.
Hi.
What's your
Hiya.
name and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name's Bobby. I'm calling from Bedford.
Hey, Bobby, how you doing? You okay?
Very well.
Glad,
very
glad
well.
you're watching the show, Bobby.
No, great show as always.
We needed you on it again, Bobby, you know, but obviously because of COVID regs, couldn't get everyone in. But listen, Bobby, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I guess, you know, just following the careers of all of you, really, and more specifically Raj, it's been, you know, well, followed it with great interest. And my question to all of you, really, is kind of, why is it time to move away from the UK? You know, I know that you've got a lot of interest, all of you in the UK, whether it's on county boards, corporate level, and otherwise. But is it time now that we need to branch out into Europe and take our skill set where people are more accepting, people are perhaps more open? And to that point, what have you guys done? Do you think that's even viable to do that? Because, you know, a number of you already said, you know, there's been many challenges trying to get roles in the UK. And individually, you know, you're all entrepreneurial, and you know, I know your careers very well, and you've done, you know, great things. But do you think it's time that we should go into Europe now, and where people are a bit more, I think, more open?
Fantastic point, Bobby. Brilliant point. Shall we go to Raj?
Bobby, you must have been reading my mind. I've actually, I'm speaking to 2 European clubs, one Spanish, one Dutch, for the simple reason that my kids are older now at university, and one will be hopefully going to university. And I've made that decision now to branch out and go to Europe, where I feel I'll be more accepted.
The other thing as well, Bobby, to add, obviously, you know, doing a bit of work, Yasmin. So I went to, well, 4 years ago, did some work with Barcelona. When I stepped into the offices, the diversity within that office was absolutely amazing. And we can't still achieve that in England. Now, I know others have gone to Europe. Dee Kundra used to work in the PR team at Liverpool. You know, got a big role at Bayern Munich. You know, and she's moved on. So.
But not only that, even in the coaching role, we've got a lot of people in the grassroots who've got...
And Asian players.
Yes,
Yeah,
playing
Asian
professional
players,
at
I
Norway.
suppose, yeah.
I think Spain, Germany.
yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot in
Yeah.
Scandinavia.
I-
A lot of
I've
our
seen that
players go to
myself in the
Scandinavia.
Nordic
it's
region
accepted.
as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. You know, because obviously we got Sarpreet Singh, who recently went to Bayern Munich, didn't he, Bobby?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I get the feeling, and the experiences I have, is that the European community are just, let's say that there's a lot more options there, and they're more willing to be open, and, you know, where they actually look for talent, they see talent.
Yeah.
They don't, you know, not necessarily see the barriers that some of us have faced in terms of, let's say, UK-wide opportunities, where, you know, they may look at your colour, they may look at your religious background even. Whereas in Europe, I find in my experiences that that's a skill set. We need that.
Bobby, you've been in the game for a long time, Bobby. Now, Bobby, honestly, tell me, do you think there is racism? Let's be honest with you. There is bias. But do you think we can achieve much if we got a football association, governing bodies, and clubs who have got all their friends within the club? You know, you got a circle, you got that little clique there. Do you think anybody else can actually get in until these cliques have been broken?
The thing is, it's for me, I think, the appetite. Now, I know you guys said earlier that some of the major TV channels like Sky Sports and you know, broadcasters have kind of really aggressively gone diverse now, and I'm hoping they choose the right people for the roles. So that's showing maybe a little bit of forced appetite, but it's there, and I think we should take the positive out of that and think, yes, we're going to get people in, and they're aware of the diversity agenda. Cliques need to be broken down. You know, that's a must. We all know from and you know about my experience, there are challenges. You know, there's a closed shop in many areas. And my thing is all about is there the appetite there? Also, Yasmin made a good point, and I think this is what we all share as well. Speaking to you guys previously, is that once somebody is able to climb up a ladder, why don't we just leave the ladder there for somebody else to come up as well? Rather than moving it away, and we have to be critical of ourselves as a community where we don't do that. We don't bring people through. So there's good examples that Yasmin, I know Raj has done a number of mentoring schemes, and you two chaps as well. I know you've been involved at all levels trying to encourage youth through the ranks. So we need to be open to that. But yeah, going back to your question, there are barriers, there's cliques that we need to break into, and once we have people of the BAME community in there, then there needs to be kind of a progression, almost like a succession plan. I mean, we do it at Luton Sporting Club in terms of our kind of coaches. We build up the teams, we run them for a few years, and then those players, when they turn 16, they become our coaches, officials. So we're giving them the opportunity to come back into the club and learning more skills. And it's all about that sharing and development. And that's the mentality, I believe, that needs to be shown in the industry. I'm astounded, the likes of Raj, who achieved what he has at, a massive worldwide club like Rangers. I half expect him to actually be, heading up somewhere in the Premier League. But I know for a fact, I say no for a fact, I'm sure he'll secure something in Europe, and then it'll be a loss to the UK. But yeah, so that was my answer to that question. I hope that answered that.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Thanks, Bobby. Thanks for that.
Bobby,
Appreciate
thanks
that.
thanks for calling in. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and good luck for the season with Luton. Just before, I know Abdul's got a very interesting question. I want to come back to both of you with the questions. We've had a very, very hard time for our community, our society, with lockdown and where we are. Is that presenting an opportunity for our communities to go forward again? Is that an opportunity for that we need to grab? Because there are going to be opportunities coming now with the change in society and the lockdown.
Yeah, well, firstly, the answer is yes. And I think this could benefit certainly the BAME Asian community. And the reason I say that is that this season, if there is no crowds in the Premiership alone, that's going to cost the clubs over 300 million. Now, if you look at it holistically, from the Premier League's perspective, they'll not only lose 300 million, there could be other potential sponsorships that they may have to forfeit or certainly renegotiate. Now, from a diversity point of view, there are still hundreds of thousands of companies out there and organisations out there that will want to work with clubs in the Premier League. And this is where I feel that our way of thinking, diversity of thought, dealing with complex situations, so they now is a time to harness and embrace diversity, and as Bobby said, recognise our talents, because now this for me is an ideal time, an optimum time for football clubs to think, actually, we need a different way of thinking, and this is where the Asian community can come in and not only benefit the football clubs, but hopefully see some form of recognition for our communities to suddenly become part of it. And I actually think it could be a benefit to us.
And there's also
that's
the
irony of
global context as well that you bring in.
Correct,
Isn't it,
global context. And can I just say one thing today is that I've spoken to a multi-billion-pound company in Asia. We had a conversation, and off the record he said to me, if I'm dealing with a football club from the UK, I'd rather be dealing with somebody that I can resonate with because of cultural differences, there's nuances, there's various other reasons. He actually said that to me today. And this is something that football clubs need to now understand, that there is a need to now recognise.
Because as you say, Raj, there are companies out there, there's multi-million-pound companies across the globe who want to invest,
they do,
who want to be part of the football club in the UK and globally, but it's given that opportunity because you bring in a new market, you're bringing a new environment, a new way of working, and that can only be beneficial to clubs.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's going back to my point. That's for me now is an opportunity for clubs to harness now what we have, and the huge community. You know, we as a BAME community, we spend 300 billion, and what we're now seeing on advertisements and different, call it whatever you wish, but I've heard the word multicultural marketing. They're targeting specific groups. These big companies have certainly in the UK have realised and understood that there is a huge spending power. But these football clubs are still doing the same thing every day, getting the same results. Why not now use this time to say, do you know what, for too long we've left certain communities to one side. They know business, they know how to bring, and also we're global now. We're global, we're not football clubs just for the UK. You look at the partnerships at some of the big clubs, you know, Liverpool and all the Premiership clubs. And even outside the Premiership, I'm challenging football clubs and saying, stop thinking so small and parochially. Start thinking big. Just because you're in the Championship or League One doesn't mean you can't also attract companies from abroad. It will just be a different value. That's all. And this is what we bring to the table. For me.
Brilliant point, Raj. Brilliant point.
Yes, believe it or not, we're coming to the end of the show very, very soon. Any last words? Again, thank you for coming on the show tonight. Some amazing points and knowledge that you brought to us. Just want to plug your Muslim Sports Association, the weekly sessions that you have, because it's quite local to here.
Yeah, I mean, now we're on COVID, so we normally run like 15 sessions a week, everything from badminton to football to yoga to martial arts. Our football starts next week, so that's an indoor session, but we also have the outdoor session over at Fenford Clubs. So hoping to come back to that next week. You can find us on Facebook and social media.
Just give us a shout. What's your Facebook handle? And
it's Muslim Sports Association, and then on Twitter it's Muslim Association, and on Instagram as well, Muslim Sports Association.
Right, before we go, very quickly, any change that you want to see happening in the next 5 years?
Next
what
5 years.
Where would you like to be in 5 years? What would you like to see? Yeah,
Me
two questions. You personally, and what would you like to see changed?
Well, the change I'd like to see is at boardroom level, a pathway for, I'm going to say, the BAME Asian community, for all the Asian community to have a pathway where they feel comfortable and confident that they can apply. And for me personally, a chief executive of a Premiership football club. Yeah, if we're going to aim, let's aim high.
Right.
Good luck.
I'm going to try and buy one, okay?
Well, that's it.
Not myself, but with others.
Yeah.
You got the job. Yasmin, any changes you want to see very quickly?
Very much the same. We have to start from top, bottom up as well. So it needs to change from grassroots. If we can see them, we can be them. So if we can get players coming in from grassroots, then more boys will want to be playing football, more girls will want to be playing football. So we need to make those changes.
Amazing.
Thank you, Yasmin. Listen, both, thank you very much for coming in. I knew the hour was going to go so quick. We had so many questions, but viewers, we are going to do another show. I think we need another 2 or 3 shows on this whilst the momentum is there. So hopefully you can join us next time. Abdal?
Guys, just to say, if you've got any concerns, any questions that you want to reach Yasmin or Raj, do email us at TV1 or Facebook us and leave us a message to have a question. We will get them to these guys. If you want any contact or you need any help, you're in the industry and you're facing that little bit of difficulty, these guys have the experience and any advice they can give, I'm sure they will give it to you.
And join the next talk show as well. You know, we are going to carry this on. Hopefully we're going to have obviously someone from the Premier League, someone from the FA as well. So do join us next time. But in the meantime, thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you very much, Raj, for coming all the way here. And you, Yasmin, as well. Not long distance such as Raj, but thanks for coming. But and hopefully, you know, we'll see everybody in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you.